So you guys have heard me say before that just because a product works for my hair doesn't mean it's going to work for yours. It all depends on your unique hair type. And the question that usually follows is, okay, great, how do I figure out what my hair type is and what products I should use? Well, that's what this video is about. Let's get into it. What's up guys, Trav White here, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we talk all about hair, grooming, and style. If you're on your hair growth journey right now, hit up our community of awesome dudes in the Mannered Mains Facebook group. These guys are incredible and they're supportive and educated, and they're always helping answer other people's questions because let's be honest, I don't know everything. You know, there are people way smarter than me out there. I'm just a guy with a passion for helping other guys, and that's what the men of Mannered Mains are as well. So hit that link in the description and come join the family. So let's go back to the question. How do you figure out your hair type? Well, to be honest, I almost didn't make this video because this stuff can get really complex and it's really unique to the individual. But I'm gonna do my best to simplify it because I want to help everyone have amazing hair and not just guys who have hair like mine. So I went deep down the rabbit hole of what's my hair type on the internet. And here's a pro tip, never type in, how do I find my hair type into Google? You're just gonna get overwhelmed. But you can bookmark this video if you want it to be simplified. But here's what I will say, don't overthink this stuff because you can get sucked into the details and you'll start buying 1,000 different products and that fits each profile characteristic. But honestly, once you know your hair type, the solution might be as simple as switching your shampoo and conditioner, or maybe buying one other product. At the end of the day, zoom out and ask yourself, what is the real goal? It's just to have healthy looking hair. And when you know your hair type, you can buy the right products. That's it. Don't overthink this stuff. I'm the type of person that when I just research something, I just have to go as deep as I can and then understand it enough to be able to simplify it and teach it to people. Why am I like that? I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse because I get sucked into rabbit holes all the time. But stick around to the end because I will tell you my hair type and my products and routine. Lastly, if you're a guy with short hair, like maybe an inch or less, then you could just skip around in this video to the texture, density, and scalp moisture parts. You don't need all this other info unless you're growing your hair out. Or if your hair is long or around the same length as mine, then you will want to stick around for this video because it directly affects mainly guys with long hair. It also affects guys with short hair too, just less so. Also, I put all this info into a free downloadable PDF for you. It has every single thing I talked about in this video in a condensed, summarized version. It has all the hair type factors, how to find what it is at home easily, and fill in the blank spots so you can write or type your own hair type in. It gives recommendations for the best products and it's mobile friendly. So you don't even have to give me your email address. I know, you're welcome. How could you ever repay me? Oh, you know what? You could hit that thumbs up and subscribe. That would be great. But enough ranting, let's get into it. This video is broken up into all the sections that make up your hair profile. So check the description for the timestamps and you can jump around if you want. The first thing we're gonna talk about is your curl pattern, which is how straight or curly your hair is. Next, we're gonna talk about porosity, and this is how well your hair absorbs or retains moisture. And then we're gonna talk about your hair texture. This is how fine or coarse the individual strands of hair are. And then we're gonna look at your hair density. This is the overall amount of hair per square inch on your head. And then finally, we're gonna look at how oily or dry your scalp is. We'll look at your moisture levels because dry or oily scalps could cause dandruff or flaking, but those aren't the same things. And I'll actually have another video on that coming out. But let's start with the curl pattern. So this might be obvious, but like always, I love to see the evidence. I found a study that shows your curl patterns are entirely determined by your genetics. A 2017 study out of the Experimental Dermatology Journal looked at 6,630 populations mixed with South American, European, Native American, African ancestry, and the genome-wide searches uncovered evidence that developmental genes are involved in shaping your hair curls and how expressed they are in your hair follicles. Some things that affect it are puberty, the hair cycle, and in non-sciencey terms, this basically means that there's a gene inside you that determines how straight or curly your hair is. So what are the different curl patterns? So I'm gonna pull up this chart right here that is also in my PDF, and it's basically the hair type system. So as you can see, there are 4 hair types. There's straight, wavy, curly, and kinky. And each one is broken down into subtypes based on how tight or loose your curls are. So straight hair is just one, and it's either straight or it's not. Then you get to group 2 hair and you have 2A, 2B, and 2C. And this is based on the intensity of the S curve, how loose or tight the waves are. 2A is loose curl, 2B is a little bit tighter from midpoint to ends, and 2C is the most well-defined S curve. Then moving on to group 3 hair. 3A curls are S shapes and they're a little bit looser. 3B is a bit tighter S shapes, and 3C curls are starting to become curly, and that's, you can kind of wrap those around a straw. So moving on to group 4, 4A is a tight S-shaped coil that you could wrap around a chopstick. 4B starts to form a Z pattern, and 4C, those are the tightest coils. And one thing I will say is, even with all these factors, if you look at 2 people who have identical curl patterns, you might still see slight differences between them. This stuff is so unique to the individual and nearly impossible to come up with a system that can show every single combination of every single hair type that ever exists. For example, my hair is actually combination. You know, I have straight hair, but then I also have like 2A on my sides. I have curls here. Some people might have like a 4A and a 4C on their hair. This isn't meant to be an end-all be-all. It's just a starting point for finding your curl pattern. So the best way, the at-home test you can do is next time you've washed and conditioned your hair, just let it air dry. Don't use any heat tools when performing this test. You just, once you've done that, you'll be able to see, okay, I'm a 1 or a 2A or I'm a 3B or I'm a 4A. And the longer your hair is, the looser your curls may get as the weight of your hair starts weighing them down. Running into general tips for each of the types. So type 1 or straight hair has a tendency to get oilier a little bit quicker than the others because oil can move down the hair shaft easier on straight hair. So guys with straight hair like me, we tend to not need a whole lot of hair oils, which is why my daily hair routine is just simply brushing my hair and spreading those natural oils. I only use coconut oil on the days that I wash because I want to protect my hair from breakage, because I also have fine and delicate hair, which I'll get to that in a second. So type 2 is the wavy type, and you probably want to avoid heavier creams and butters because it can weigh down those curls. So you want to opt for lighter products. Type 2B and 2C are also more prone to frizz, especially when it starts to get humid out. So for you guys, there are some lightweight mousse products that enhance your curls that also have anti-humidity ingredients. So those are great for curly types or wavy. So type 3 is the curly to coily hair. Brushing this hair can lead to a frizzy mane. So instead of brushing and combing it, you might want to opt to put a leave-in conditioner in your hair while it's damp, and then go through your damp hair with fingertips to sort of brush your hair. So if you have type 3 hair, you're probably better off air drying than blow drying also, at least air drying with heat. You can use the cool setting, but heat can cause your hair to frizz up. So type 4, this is the kinky hair. Kinky hair tends to need moisture, like shea butter, leave-in conditioners. You know, co-washes are really popular amongst people with type 4 hair. So next we have your hair porosity. Porosity refers to the hair shaft's ability to absorb and retain moisture. And hair porosity is divided up into 3 categories. You got low, medium, and high. And if you have low porosity hair, this means that your cuticle is really tight and it doesn't let anything in. So if low porosity hair was a football player, the moisture is the quarterback, then JJ Watt is the cuticle. It's like, it's not letting it, it's swatting everything away. But once moisture does get into your hair, it holds onto it really, really well because those cuticles are so tightly packed in. So when you condition low porous hair, it's going to hold that moisture for a really long time. And you could be prone to over conditioning because it holds it so well, which could cause your hair to get a little stiff. So you might cut back on like leave-in conditioners and things like that. For medium porosity hair, the cuticle scales are slightly raised and moisture is easy to absorb and easy to retain. So it's like, it's got good offense and good defense. So if we're talking football again, this is the Kansas City Chiefs. And I hope this video ages well. And then we have high porosity hair. This hair is constantly broken or raised cuticles. And so moisture is really easy to absorb, but really hard to retain. So basically a weak offense and a weak defense. Sorry, Raiders fans. So again, I hope this ages well. What are some signs, like what your porosity is and how you can see some signs of that? So for guys with low porosity, products tend to sit on the outside of your hair rather than penetrate it. Your hair could take forever to get wet in the shower. You know, water droplets might sit on the outside for a long time before getting absorbed. And then vice versa, it also takes a long time for your hair to dry. So your hair doesn't respond well to things like coconut oil or shampoo and conditioners with a lot of protein in it because it already retains that stuff really, really well. well. So for high porosity hair, that's when your hair might get saturated with products really easily or with water, but it also dries really fast and maybe abnormally fast. So you might tend to always have frizzy or dry or damaged hair that's more prone to breakage. But there are also several other causes of frizz, like humidity or just having really coarse and curly hair. So high porosity hair can be frizzy, but not all frizzy hair is highly porous, if that makes sense. Additionally, high porosity hair could be genetic, but it's more likely caused by damaging your hair through processing or styling treatments or straightening or heat tools or blow drying with too much heat or bleaching it or a lot of chemical treatments. So I actually found a 2008 study from the Journal of Cosmetic Science that shows high porosity hair is directly linked to UV damage and chemical treatments. So if you don't experience either of those things between high or low porosity hair, then chances are you're right there in that medium porosity. And that's kind of where I am as well. And it's easier to style. Your hair tends to look shiny and healthy. It doesn't take too long to dry. So a really quick at-home test that you can do next time you shampoo and condition is to, again, let your hair air dry and then ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, how quickly did my hair absorb the water in the shower? And then number 2 is, how quickly did my hair air dry? So if water sits on the outside of your hair for a while before absorbing, takes like 3 to 4 hours, it's probably low porosity. If it absorbs water instantly when it gets wet and then air dries really, really fast, like between 30 and 60 minutes, you might have high porosity or damaged hair. And then for medium porosity, you're gonna be right there in the middle. Your hair absorbs water pretty well, relatively fast, and then it air dries relatively fast as well. My hair usually air dries between 1 and 2 hours. So I do have medium porosity hair. So really quick, some tips, some things to manage low or high porosity. For low porosity, washing with warm water can help raise those cuticle scales so it absorbs moisture. If you're applying oils or leave-in conditioners, applying them to damp hair can also raise those cuticle scales and help them penetrate your hair a little bit better. If you're wearing a deep conditioning mask, if you wear something over your hair, a hair cover or a hat, it can lock in that heat and sort of just help that moisture get into that low porosity hair. I would say use protein-free shampoos and conditioners since your hair holds on to keratin really well because those cuticle scales are really tight. So adding more protein could cause your hair to get a little stiff or brittle. Another thing you can do is to use water-based conditioners rather than oil-based conditioners because water is lighter and it can penetrate your hair easier than oil. So for high porosity, the goal is sealing and healing. So heavy oils, shea butters, proteins, these all should be in your shampoo and conditioner. And I'm gonna leave links to all those products in the description and also in the PDF. If you have high porosity hair, using those daily can really help. So let's move on to hair texture. So the next thing to consider is like the thickness or thinness of one individual strand of your hair. And that's measured as fine, medium, or coarse. And to test this, you're going to take one strand of your hair like this. You're gonna roll it between your fingers and you're gonna see what you feel. If you can barely feel anything or you can't feel anything, you have really fine hair. If you can feel something but it's light, kind of like a cotton thread, then you probably have medium. And if it feels more like a wire or something, then you have coarse hair. So I definitely have really fine hair. So a couple of things men with fine, long hair should be aware of is number 1, your hair breaks a lot easier. So you have to be a lot more gentle. If you scrub or brush too hard, you could lose a lot of hair in the shower, and if you towel dry too roughly, it can damage your hair. Also, guys with fine hair tend to hold a little bit less protein, so having products with protein in them can be beneficial for you. I use the OGX shampoo. You can use one with keratin in it. It's got protein and it's a really great shampoo and conditioner. And yeah, so another benefit of fine hair though is that a little bit of product goes a long way because your hair is so thin, it doesn't need a whole lot of stuff. So let's move on to the medium texture. If you have medium, you're kind of right in that sweet spot. You don't have to worry too much about protein loss, but for medium textured hair, you have a lot more flexibility with the products. You can worry more about porosity for picking your products. Moving on to coarse hair. So with coarse hair, it's a lot thicker. The pros of coarse hair is that they're a lot stronger, right? They're gonna hold more protein, they're gonna be more resistant to heat and chemicals. But the downside is it can be stiff when it's dry, and if your hair is coarse and curly, it can frizz really easily. So coarse hair contains the most amount of protein, and it's also the thickest type. So again, like, you know, all this stuff really comes down to individual trial and error when you're picking your products. So let's move on to hair density. Let's just keep moving on through. I know this is a lot of info I'm throwing at you, but this is how thick or thin your hair is overall. If you hear people say, oh, that guy has thin hair or that guy has thick hair, they're usually referring to density, not texture. If the individual width of one strand is texture, then density is how much hair per square inch you have, or the proximity the follicles are to each other. This is divided up between thin, medium, and thick. So to perform a density test, you just want to pull, like part your hair and kind of pull a little bit to the side right here. And how much of your scalp is visible? So if you can see your scalp really easily when you pull your hair like that, then you have thin hair. If a little bit of your scalp is visible, you're probably in the medium range. And if you can't see your scalp at all, kind of like me, it's kind of hard to see my scalp when I pull it like that, then you have thick density. Another thing you can do is grab a pony and just see like how thick your ponytail is. If it's really thin or small, then you got thin hair. So when looking at hair density, there's not a whole lot to say about the maintenance besides maybe for thin hair. And that is just to use lighter products like sprays, powders, mousses, because using heavier creams and oils can really weigh your hair down. So just keep that in mind if you have thin hair. So also keep in mind that thick hair can thin over time if you're not getting all the vitamins you need or if you're overly stressed. So check out this other video I have on how to grow long and healthy hair and keep it healthy. Okay, so we are in the home stretch now. We're getting there. So let's move on to scalp moisture levels. This is different from porosity. If porosity is how well the hair shaft absorbs or retains moisture, scalp moisture is just how dry or oily your scalp is based on your natural sebum production. And this can really depend on several factors. It can be from like things like overwashing or genetics. Those are two main causes of oily hair. And when it comes to scalp moisture, there are actually 4 different types. So you can have balanced hair, dry hair, oily hair, or combination hair, which is basically oily roots and dry ends. So you probably, sorry, itched, my beard itched. You probably already have a really good idea of what your scalp moisture level is, but here are some questions you can ask yourself just to figure it out. The first one is my face dry or is it oily? So this is a good indicator of sebum production on your scalp too, based on your face oil. And how quickly does your scalp get oily after you shampoo and condition? Does your scalp get oily but your ends stay dry? Those are just some questions to ask. If you have balanced hair, then your scalp probably gets oily like 3 to 4 days after washing, or your hair starts to get oily 3 or 4 days after washing. If you have dry hair, then you could have some irritation on your scalp, you could flake, and your scalp could dry up within 24 hours. Yeah, so there might be some like itchiness and things like that. So you have an oily scalp if your hair gets really oily within a day of washing, and you could be dealing with flat hair or hair that's difficult to manage, or you might or might not have dandruff, which dandruff is different than flakes, by the way. So you have combination hair if your scalp is oily but your ends are dry. So what are some ways really fast that you can kind of treat or tips for managing these scalp moisture levels? So for dry hair, try washing your hair less actually. It might give you more time for that sebum to produce. I would stay around 2 to 3 times per week. And then after you wash and condition, try doing like a deep conditioning mask or a coconut oil mask or something like that. Using an oil in your hair daily, like an argan oil, can also be great daily hydration for your hair. Using a shampoo and conditioner with protein like keratin in it can also be really well. And then using sulfate-free shampoo and conditioner can help as well to avoid skin irritation or itchiness. So if you have oily hair, this actually might sound odd, but the goal for you is actually, you could be overwashing your hair, because every time you wash, that signals the scalp to produce more sebum, and it really pushes that oil production into overdrive. So cutting back on your washes could help your scalp be less oily over time as your scalp adapts. If you wash already though, 1 to 2 times per week, and you still struggle with oily hair, then maybe it's a genetic thing and you could increase it to 3 times a week. Try to keep it around there so you can, just so your scalp stays on a good production cycle. You can also use a water-based conditioner rather than an oil-based one, since your scalp's already naturally oily. So if you have combination hair, which is oily roots and dry scalp, basically what you want to do is to only shampoo your scalp. You don't want to shampoo your ends because it could dry them out even more. Another thing you want to do is to only condition about mid-shaft down to your ends, and then use a daily oil from mid shaft down as well. Another thing you want to do to help spread your natural oils is to brush your hair daily with like a wooden brush or a nylon detangling brush, something like that that can really spread those oils from your scalp to the ends of your hair just to help even out those oil levels. Okay, so let's put this all together. So we have your curl pattern and type, we have your texture, we have your density, we have your porosity, and we have your scalp moisture level. So let's say that you have curly 3A or 3B, coarse hair, high porosity, and a dry scalp. If this is you, you want to use something like an oil daily, a coconut or an argan or a castor oil. You want protein in your shampoo and conditioner, and you may benefit from like a daily leave-in conditioner or doing daily conditioning washes. That's where you just use water and conditioner. So let's say that you're kind of on the opposite, or let's say you have straight hair, like a 1, it's fine, it's medium porosity, and maybe you have oily hair. You're pretty much gonna wanna do like the exact opposite. You'll want lighter weight products. You don't need to do like daily treatments or co-washes or leave-ins, and your hair is really good at moisturizing itself. But because of the fine hair, you will wanna use like a protein-based shampoo. So let's talk about like what my hair type is really quick. So I'll put it up on the screen right now, but this is the downloadable PDF, by the way, that you guys can download and to find out your own hair type. But I have 1 and 2A curl pattern. I'm straight and wavy. I actually have multiple curl patterns on my head, but I just call it 1 and 2A for simplicity's sake. I have really fine texture, so I'm more prone to breakage if I'm too rough with it. I have a really thick density, which is really good for volume, and then medium porosity, so my hair absorbs and retains moisture really well. And I have a really balanced scalp. It's not too dry, it's not too oily. This is why my hair care routine is just really, really simple. So what I do typically in a week is I'll wash with the OGX Tea Tree shampoo and conditioner like once or twice per week. It has the milk protein in it. I'll use coconut oil pre and post wash to protect my fine hair from breaking. And the only other thing I do daily to detangle my hair is brush it with a wide tooth comb and a nylon paddle brush to spread my natural sebum from my scalp to my ends. And that's it, guys. Honestly, sorry this video is late. It took me forever to make, but I hope that it brought you a lot of value and gave you some great direction on how to care for your unique hair type. And yeah, so download that PDF. I have all the pretty charts. I have all the tips and tricks for what you can do for each individual hair type, and it's free. You don't even have to give me your email address. Just take it. Like this is my gift. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Testing, testing, testing. Always got something in my throat. Don't put that in the video. And come join the family. Voice crack. So to perform, sorry. So you probably, sorry, itch. My beard itched. So you will have oily, oh my gosh, I keep messing this up. Filming, don't come in. I have to go. Okay, love you. Love you. Bye. Careful. Huh? Be careful. Be careful?